What's up, guys? It's your host, DTX. Welcome to another episode of JuicedCast, a podcast made for resellers by resellers. I'm joined by my co-host today, Saucyy Mango. What's up, man?
I'm happy to be back here with you today to bring some more content for our listeners. We had a really good first episode last week, followed by our Q&A session, and we got a little bit of good feedback from you guys, and I'm excited to keep this going. I'd like to start off, I think, we just had our Q&A session, and unfortunately, since it was on Clubhouse, we didn't have a lot of you able to hop onto that platform. But DTX, do you want to give them a little bit of a recap of what we had going on then and who we were able to talk to and the information we got from them?
Yeah, for sure. So we were able to have Jalen, the founder of Osiris Rafflebots, come on, and it was really interesting to talk. It was really interesting to talk to him because Osiris Rafflebots 1.0 just came out, and he was basically talking about in 1.0 they're able to bot a lot of sites that have NFTs, and we are kind of just talking about like the future of reselling in general and how NFTs could play a huge role in that. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that was really, really interesting. I think, given that he was talking about his software that he's developed and has started with his company, the transition into diversifying his software. He has a raffle bot, right, and that's what they are known for. But they're more than just that now, right? And they're able to. He was mentioning how they've shifted their focus towards NFTs with Top Shot and all that, and we'll be getting into that a little today on NFTs, a little bit about cryptocurrency and all that. It'll be an interesting episode today. I'm excited to sort of indulge in these areas for you guys today. I think also what's worth mentioning was our second, interviewee we had, which was Young Rice. Young Rice was a really interesting person we got to talk to early on Friday. He's a influencer, right? Social media influencer. And I think the valuable information we got from him in terms of building your brand, marketing, and how he sort of built himself up through TikTok was really interesting because we sort of talk about how we're resellers and we're involved in sort of this industry of flipping consumer goods and all that, and having him produce these videos which consist of teaching people and informing people about our industry is also really, really valuable.
I,
Anyways, I want to start us off with cryptocurrency and how it's taking off with sort of Bitcoin. And I know DTX, you want to go into a little bit about sort of mining and stuff like that. So why don't you get us started with that today?
so just I didn't really get to say anything to Young Rice afterwards because the clubhouse was kind of cut a little short. So huge shout out to Young Rice for coming on that clubhouse. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we can have on maybe on a podcast episode soon. But
Absolutely, yeah.
into cryptocurrencies. So, as we all know, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, these are the biggest cryptocurrencies, and everyone wants to get on it. So, just out of curiosity, like Saucyy, what's your like knowledge on cryptocurrency?
So, I mean, if we're looking into crypto, right, I think a lot of us will know about like sort of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think the biggest thing to, I'm not sure where our listeners are at in terms of their cryptocurrency knowledge, but maybe, I'll do a little intro about sort of what Bitcoin is and how we trade that currency and all that. I think what's very interesting regarding Bitcoin compared to sort of our normal currencies we use on a day-to-day basis, whether it may be US dollars, the euro, or Canadian dollars. Bitcoin is decentralized money, right? So it means that it's a system that can operate and transfer funds without any sort of central authority. And the question is, how do we create a system that's like decentralized, with a decentralized ledger and all that? It's kind of crazy as it may seem, but they have designed a specific protocol, right, which solves this issue through what we call like blockchain mining. And through this process, miners have to guess sort of random numbers, which is kind of weird. you have to solve like various equations, and it's generated by the system using, obviously you have to use your computer. And once you've guessed the right answer, you get rewarded, and you earn Bitcoin. And you basically get to the next page of the Bitcoin transactions. And it's important to know that it's not necessarily free money, like mining and solving blockchain. The mining difficulty adjusts according to the mining power, which means if there are more miners out there, um, the harder it is to solve the questions, and vice versa, right? And I think that's a really interesting way of sort of solving this whole issue altogether. What were your thoughts on, how this we're in 2021. It's not necessarily very new now, but what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency and how it's really really taking off this year?
So I got into crypto back in 2016. That's when I kind of got introduced into it, and I started off with Ethereum, which I'm super pleased about right now, and you know how it's doing. But I kind of got started into that, and then there was a crash that happened, and I kind of got scared. I was like, "Oh no, what did I just do?" You know, and I held and I held, and I'm still holding to this day. But I think a lot of people, what they thought was like, nobody knows if this is going to go up, down, like sideways. Nobody knows, right? Crypto's so versatile, and it's so unpredictable. Now, something that I've found interesting, which I kind of got into earlier, is how crypto is being used today, and that's like in NFTs. To anyone,
Mm-hmm.
let me just do a quick breakdown on what NFTs are. An NFT is a non fungible token. It is like a crypto token that is managed on a blockchain. Saucyy kind of explained what a blockchain is earlier, and it acts like a ledger. So it tracks the ownership of what, like, a digital item that you may own, whether it be LeBron taking a three, like with NBA Top Shot, or a piece of art, like a Looney Tunes cartoon animation, right? That could be an NFT. They're all coded to have like a unique ID. So one that's super popular right now is NBA Top Shot. So a quick breakdown on what NBA Top Shot is. It's an online company made by Dapper Labs. You may have heard of them before. They've done NFTs before. They're from Canada. They're from Vancouver, and they allow users to collect like basketball highlights on cards, right? And for people to trade them and withdraw them, and like and trade them and make money and then withdraw that money. Um, and basically find a way that like you can turn $9, which is how much a pack could cost, or $6, into $1,000, right? So it seems really easy, but the hype behind it has continued to grow. And Jalen said this in the clubhouse that there used to be like 20,000 people in line to get a pack, right? But now there's like over 500,000 people in line in the queue to get a pack. Um, so it depends on how rare the NFT is. That can also impact the value of it. So it's the way I look at it. Is treat like the NBA Top Shot things based off of like their rarity, right? So the way I looked at it when I first came into NFTs was like, why the heck is anyone buying a, you know, video of LeBron shooting a three for $1,000 when I can just watch it on YouTube, right? It's like it made no sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic. I think NFTs work in another way compared to sort of our day-to-day currency, which is sort of one of a kind, right? Like you mentioned, I think it was really important that you mentioned that they're sort of like collectibles, like a certificate, a receipt for collectibles. And I think a great example of something prior to the boom of NFTs was like video game skins, right? Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. Have you played like CS:GO before?
Yeah. CS:GO. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. People like buy, sell, trade skins, and I think what is hard to grasp is this idea that people buy in for the sole purpose that the token is scarce, right? But one thing I can say regarding this approach is simply the fact that buying something alone for its scarcity does not mean that it holds value and can generate you an income, right? It relies a lot on the demand as well
I
for the
agree.
digital assets. You mentioned this idea of, Top Shot with these highlights that are selling and trading for such ridiculous amounts. I remember, logging in the other day and I saw LeBron James dunk. I think it's the right now it's currently valued as the most expensive Top Shot, highlight or moments, whatever you want to call it, over $200,000. Like that's insane, wouldn't you say? Like, and then there's also the Nyan cat, the GIF, selling for like 500,000,
Yeah.
and you have also I'm pretty sure they even used, in terms of like digital art, they use like a famous, they're using NFTs, like a famous tweet from like the first tweet of someone who was famous. They're selling that as an artwork, and I remember seeing something crazy. It was like $2.5 million just to own this like NFT of someone's famous tweet, which I thought was crazy.
So for me, I personally think NFTs are a good investment. I don't think they're going to stay as high as they are right now, but long term speaking, um, I think that this can very well be the future of card trading, like with Top Shot. I really think that this could be it because you have to keep in mind NBA Top Shot and what Dapper Labs has produced there is truly something special, but it's insanely popular, right? And they're only in beta. Like just to think about the fact that they're only in beta, right? There's so much farther they can go. They're just starting out, and they're backed by the NBA. This is one of the first NFTs that is backed by something as big as like the National Basketball Association, right? So that just kind of
Mm-hmm.
shows you like how much room they have to grow. This is only the beginning of like what NBA Top Shot is going to be, don't you think?
Absolutely. I'm not too familiar with the exact way of sort of trading through Top Shot. You're a little more experienced in that realm. From what you know, is it do they use what do they use to sort of in terms of form of payment for Top Shot right now currently?
Okay, so whenever you want to, you can basically what I do personally is I deposit money into my Dapper wallet, right? And then I'm able to purchase Top Shot moments through the balance I have in my Dapper wallet. Then here's the thing: you can sell your Top Shot moments on the market. Say I bought Giannis for $100, right, from my Dapper wallet, and then I sold it for 250. That 250 goes in my Dapper wallet, and I can buy another card that's like, or another moment. I'm sorry, that's 250, right? They're called moments. They're not called cards. It's a huge
Yeah.
mix up. So um, I could buy a moment that's 250. Now I have 250 in my Dapper wallet. The huge thing that I know Jalen brought up too in the clubhouse was you can't withdraw for like 3 months until they verify your
Hmm.
identity. Which right now I believe they only have like 7,000 people on Top Shot that can withdraw, which is ridiculous. So an option that they have is you can trade your cards to someone and they can pay you, and that's what a lot of people have been doing. That's what I did, but you have to be very careful with it because you don't want to transfer like 10 cards at once. They'll just ban the account. It's very suspicious because this is like against their
Their
policy.
terms of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's I feel like they know people are doing it because I don't understand like why they would keep the trading feature there then, because like everyone knows that like I'm sure like Dapper Labs isn't that dumb. They definitely know that people are, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Currently, since they you're able to purchase like you said a moment uh, through sort of our universal currencies, how would you feel? I'm pretty sure they have plans to start injecting and implementing crypto in their platform in terms of purchasing goods. How do you think that'll change the game for Top Shot?
I believe they do. So I believe that's already implemented. Um, you can pay through like Coinbase, I'm pretty sure, or something like that, whatever your wallet may be. I think that they're gonna have to keep universal currency options there for now, and at
Hmm.
least in the foreseeable future, is because people like me who I invest in crypto, but I don't like usually send it or receive it into my account. I prefer paying through my bank account versus paying through my crypto wallet. Do I make sense? It's just
Yeah.
for me, crypto is more of an investment than it is a currency like to exchange. And I feel
Hmm.
like there's a lot of other people that are out there and with the same idea, but crypto runs on runs on transactions, right? So the more transactions there are using cryptocurrency, the more it's going to fluctuate the price.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, as we spoke on our first podcast regarding the reselling market, right? We sort of touched upon how it sits around $2 billion, right? And then if you compare it to sort of like other collector markets, such as like the US card collector market, which is around 5 billion, Top Shot right now, from what I know, is around 400 million. And if you compare it to the other ones right now, right, you're saying that's not a lot, but that's simply because it hasn't been overbought and it has so much more potential to grow. Um, when we're speaking of like NFTs, I read this article a little recently, regarding this other form of NFT. It was like artwork, right? Like that's another really really big way of trading now. Similar to like how today, in real life we have real artwork that people collect, and all that. And this essentially this artist named Mike Winkelmann, right? He goes by the name Beeple. He had started to make digital art every day for about 13 and a half years, right? Posting them online. And then recently, his artwork, which he named Every Days, the first 5,000 days, this was his latest NFT sale. And it sold for $69 million, which is insane. And it was a collection of his first 5,000 days worth of artwork. And I thought that was really amazing. One thing I wanted to take away from this idea of NFT artwork was this. And I want to ask you this question, which is, I've heard about a lot of sort of big social media influencers and like YouTubers, who have really invested a lot of time into, NFTs, as a token. And they sort of built up this notion and this idea of, the future of NFTs and what it could translate to, right? And just picture this. Imagine, you have an NFT and it gives you access to certain experiences, kind of like a pass, right? So, most people, when they're looking at NFTs and we're learning a little bit more about what NFTs are, we're kind of like, what is the use of these, right? In terms of an investment, yes, that's one thing. But like actual use of an NFT, we're wondering, well, what am I going to do with a moment, like an NBA moment, or what am I going to do with an artwork, right? It's not like it's a real life artwork that you can hang up in your wall in your house and say, this is really beautiful. Um, so, in terms of translating this idea of NFTs to like backstage passes or a method of allowing people to get invitations to certain events, how do you think that could pan out? Or do you think that is something that has potential?
I think that if, let's say, an NBA player like Luka Doncic, right, says, I'm holding a meet and greet in Dallas for anyone who has my moment on NBA Top Shot. It's the only way that type of thing could happen. I don't see like the NBA or NBA teams being like the only way you can get into our event is with the moment. I can only see it if it were to happen with the individual person, right? So if there's an NFT of like maybe like you're saying first tweets, so like let's say like Post Malone's first tweet, right? Or someone like that. I'm just thinking of a
Mm-hmm.
random artist that I don't think that their like management or big companies would be like, okay, the only way you can get in is if you have an NFT of this person, unless the individual artist or athlete or influencer or whatever it may be, you know, handles it themselves. I think it's an opportunity for these big companies to possibly lose money because I don't think NFTs are that big yet. I think maybe 5 years down the line, that's a possibility, but I don't think it is right now. And
Mm-hmm.
something I found really interesting was Russell Okung, the he plays for the Carolina Panthers, I believe, in the NFL, took his $13 million salary in Bitcoin, right? And he was the first athlete in a major American sport to be compensated in cryptocurrency. So this was like $27,000, is what Bitcoin was valued at whenever he signed this contract. So now it's valued at 58,000, right?
Jeez.
This is a genius move by this NFL player. And I think a lot of athletes or music artists or influencers in general will say, I want my next contract, I want it in cryptocurrency. Because I have enough money right now to last me like the next 10 years if I were to hold this contract in cryptocurrency. Do I make sense? And I feel like
Yeah.
Bitcoin's extremely volatile day to day, right? So it makes it kind of a
Hmm.
risky investment. But after seeing like, this Carolina Panthers player Russell Okung make a fortune off of it, it seems like other people are going to want to like follow this trend of, you know what, let's take our salary in cryptocurrency. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the more and more we see all these cryptocurrencies continue to grow and become more universal, I think, we'll be using Bitcoin a lot more frequently in terms of our day-to-day transactions, whether, maybe so much as grabbing a cup of coffee before work. I think, we could potentially just be using Bitcoin for that. That really depends on, if a good chunk of the population decides to buy into that. But yeah, I think it is really fascinating.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his contract details right now. In December of 2020, he signed a $6.5 million contract, which he converted into Bitcoin, which is about 240 BTC. And now that contract is worth 14.1 million. So $7.6 million return in like December, January, February, March, 4 months.
That that's unbelievable, man. Yeah, like I myself have uh, tried to invest a little here and there into Bitcoin, and I mean I've managed to get a nice return, and I know a lot of good friends of mine who really took a crack at it earlier on when it was very very young, and they were very smart. They held, and they still have it till today, and now they're deciding to potentially cash out
Yeah,
and potentially buy themselves a new house or
that's
a
crazy.
car, whatever it may be, which I find really really
Wow.
insane. And it is a really cool way to turn your life around.
I agree 100%. I think that how long is it until Footsites start taking cryptocurrency, right? Kind of tying it back into reselling. How long is it before Finish Line starts taking cryptocurrency for in-store pairs? How long is it before Foot Locker starts taking cryptocurrency for in-store pairs? How long is it before Champ starts taking cryptocurrency on online orders, right? You see cryptocurrency starting to get more integrated with botting, right? In general.
Hmm.
And we saw that with Osiris was it was, like you're already starting to see like a little bit of it. So how long is it before every major bot has an NFT, a module that involves NFTs? I think that
Yeah,
you're going to see this in the sneaker industry a lot more in the near future, don't you think?
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You mentioned this idea of bringing it to foot sites and all these stores, these sneaker stores or apparel stores. How would you say that would change the game for resellers? How would it affect us, good or bad? I think is the question.
I think it couldn't fluctuate how much you paid for your shoe. I mean, imagine you pay like in Bitcoin and you paid the 170 plus the tax, which is like where I'm located is like 186 after all said and done, right? It's
Mhm.
186 for a Jordan 1. Um so imagine, Bitcoin is what you paid with, and then eventually like that shoe ends up costing you like 182 cuz Bitcoin, fell in price. Do I make sense?
Yeah,
Or it could end up costing you 200 because Bitcoin went up. So, I mean, I think it's gonna make the way we account, like the way we do our accounting, a lot more difficult, don't you think?
yeah,
But
yeah. I think that'll be the reason that a lot of us as resellers will probably try to opt out of that
yeah,
form of payment. Wouldn't you say?
yeah, 100%. Like, I recently bought some proxies and had to pay with cryptocurrency, and I wasn't too pleased. I had to get like a transfer, and like I was like, I'm never doing this again. It's like, it's just like it kind of makes things more inconvenient in the current setting and the way like things are right now. If there's a more simplified way to do it in the future, sign me up, right? But
Yeah,
I don't see it coming into like it being integrated with sneakers immediately. I'd say at least another, like I said earlier, like 5 years. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, I'd say so. Well, I mean, since we're on the topic of foot sites and all that, I mean, let's dive a little into sort of how the botting scene has been for that module right now in terms of foot sites. I mean, Shopify is its own issue in itself, but
Yeah.
yeah, let's. I mean, what was the last really really big cook or drop that we had? I'd say it was the University
Uni
Blues, wouldn't you
Blues.
say?
Yeah, I agree. And just want to add on that Juiced cooked that drop. We were able. The success speaks for itself, wouldn't you say? Um, Juice did a really good job with that drop, and it provided all the info and the release guides that were necessary.
Yeah, I remember being on Discord that day and tuning into the success channels, and it was blowing up. Everyone was able to snag multiples, which was really good.
Yeah, that's
You yourself did a really good job. You want to share with our listeners right now how many you were able to secure?
so. Last episode, I was talking about how weather delays affected my top haze backdoors.
Yeah.
Um, I'm happy to say that there was no weather delays this time with my backdoors, but he was able to my backdoor plug was able to secure me like 4 pairs through in store, and then I was able to get some from Footsites as well. My final count on pairs after everything was said and done was around 7 pairs, I believe, and I'm super happy to have secured that many. With Mochas, I only secured one, right? And that was through an in-store loop I'd been doing at the time. I've never been really big into botting until fairly recently, so I'm still looking forward to like growing. Like with Silver Toes, I was able to hit 9, and then with UNLV Dunks, I was able to hit 8. Right, before I used to only be able to hit 1. Like I remember the Jubilees, which was a mass release drop. I hit well for including PVs, I hit like 39, but after PVs it was like 12 because I didn't do my profiles right.
Yeah.
Um, and I think just PVs are just getting so frustrating with Footsite spotting is that like I'm kind of steering away from it, but it's like this is the best chance I have at getting bulk pairs, aside from in store. Footsite spotting is the best chance I have, but with the amount of PVs that you get, it's just super frustrating, right? So it's just kind of
Yeah.
like messing around with your profiles, finding things that work. Something I found for me that works is using a different address on all of my profiles. So if you have a lot of friends and family around like your country or whatever it may be that are willing to take in your pairs, use their address, right? This is like probably the best way I'd say you can avoid PVs. Um, Aside from that, yeah, Uni Blues was actually a good drop compared to other hyped Jordan 1 drops like Mocha's. And all in all, I'd say, with botting did well, and all in all, I'd say it was a very good drop. When you say so.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I wasn't lucky enough to hit 7 pairs. I managed to get it was around 3 or 4 for myself. I mean, I can't complain. Better than not walking away with nothing. I would say though, you mentioned a good point about the PVs, right? PVs meaning sort of payment verification, which means you get cancellations on your orders. And I'd say the two biggest things to, at least through my experience, to sort of make sure you have down pat are your, we can jig our addresses as much as we want, and those are a good method, right, to generate more profiles. But you mentioned, having an extra address, which is really important, and that could be so much as hitting up a friend or family to ask them to borrow their address for a specific shoe to ship out to them. And you can even take advantage of reshippers. But I think even in terms of botting and the technicality of it, you also have to make sure that your email address and your phone numbers are different. Those are the two things that really make a difference in terms of cancellations. You said that this drop was good. I want to agree with you, but at the same time, with I wouldn't say it's recent anymore, but it was since the Mocha drop where they started to implement Data Dome, right? I think prior to that, the foot sites game and all that was a lot different, right? It was a little easier for us to cop multiple pairs, and I think that was tied to the bot protection and all that. And now I think with foot sites, what's really throwing a lot of experienced spotters off is, uh, you know, the uncertainty from drop to drop. Right, you can do really well one drop and then run sort of the same setup the following drop and not hit a single pair. And I think that ties to sort of we when you first enter the industry and you want to become a botter, let's say, the sort of biggest thing that gets slapped on your face is the bots that you use, the programs that you use, right? But now what we're finding out more and more about is it's not simply the software you're running, right? Yes, they play a really pivotal role in terms of success, right? In terms of the devs that are working behind doors, making sure that you can secure your pairs. But when it really boils down to it, if you have, a good chunk of A-list bots in your inventory, it really comes down to proxies now, right? And we're really seeing how hard it is, and you really have to have everything in your arsenal every drop, and that means having a mix of residential proxies, having a mix of ISPs, even DCs if you want. And we're finding that you can't just stick to one provider, because one day a provider will do really well and the next they'll flop. And I think it's really about doing a lot of error logs and checking where you're going wrong, and where you go right, continue to stick with that, but continue to adjust accordingly. I think that's the biggest takeaway from these drops, wouldn't you say?
100%. Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at how, like, on foot sites on the same day, and obviously stock plays a massive role in this, but the easy Ash Pearls that were this last Saturday to yesterday, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was yesterday at the time that we're recording this. I hit like a few pairs, but they were all payment declines. Um, and it was because I had some profile issues. But on the next drop, which I was running the same amount of tasks on the next drop that same day with the threes, and obviously stock was greater, I was able to hit 30 something, right? So, I mean, that just plays, I think, like, it's the same drop. I use the same proxies. Just don't get sad if you don't hit pairs on one drop, right? You can always bounce back the next drop. That's what I'm trying to get at right now is, there's been drops where I hit 0 pairs, but the next drop I'm able to hit 10 or more, right? It's always just about changing your game plan and adapting to, what works best, and that's really all botting is about, is adapting to, you know, the current situation with foot sites and the proxy companies and the providers, and how you can just become better and better at something, right?
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one thing that's worth mentioning to our listeners right now, and we were talking about this prior to drop time yesterday, which was this idea of PVs with Yeezy, right? You said you had your own problem with profiles, but it even goes as far as now today. What's going on, which is crazy, is your delivery service and couriers right now. What's happening with Yeezy Supply is they have sort of an agreement between their shipping provider and their company, which is where if someone's delivering several pairs of, let's say, Yeezys to your delivery address, they'll flag it, they'll mark it down, they'll write it down, and then they'll head back to Adidas, and then they'll be like, look, this address is getting way too many pairs, it's very suspicious, and they'll flag you. And essentially what will happen is your address will be banned, and they won't deliver to you. You'll just get constant cancellations, which is really cool to know, because if you do experience that, that could be also another reason why. um, but let's step away from sort of the last University Blues drop and all that, and I want to talk a bit about sort of what we have left in store for the rest of March and what we can look forward to in April. I know that we had the University Blues; those were a hit colorway, hit silhouette. They're making a return in terms of a colorway towards the Jordan 4 silhouette soon, and I want to talk a bit about what you find interesting in terms of the trends of we. I remember when we were younger, dunks were never a really big commodity. Those would always sit at outlet stores for discounted prices, and now everyone wants to get their hands on dunks. I have a client of mine who's looking to get some medium curries coming up at the end of this month, so everyone's sort of got their eyes on those. And then we got foam runners are coming back in different colorways. Those are going to be a big hit. And then I want to talk about do you remember sort of a couple of years ago when sort of Nike foam posits and NMDs and sort of human races were really big? What's
Dude,
happening with
yeah.
that now? We're finding sort of a shift in the market where no one's really paying attention to those anymore, and they're not much of a hit anymore. Why do you think that is?
I honestly couldn't tell you. I've been wondering that myself. Is like, NMDs are bricks now, right? And over the past summer, like I was bulk like brick flipping, and the shoe that I brick flipped the most was the all white Ultra Boost, right? And that was it was probably the easiest shoe I've ever been able to get because they're always in stock in every size.
Yeah.
So I feel like the hype around them has just kind of died because I guess they've been mass produced. That's my guess on it. Um, One thing I wanted to add from something earlier you said is how Yeezy Supply has been, you know, blacklisting addresses. One
Hmm.
thing I just wanted to add on super quick was back in December, with Foots, when I hit my Jubilees on one day, I had like three coming in at on one day. Um, because it differs on the day. So like one day I had two come in, one day I had three. So
Yeah.
on this day I
Yeah.
had three coming in to one address. So I was like, I wonder if it's gonna be three boxes, like what the situation is gonna be. Foots put all three Jubilee boxes in one box. They clearly knew that like this, like it's supposed to be one per customer. They did not care. So I think Easy Supply maybe is like a little bit more concerned with it, but from
Yeah.
what I know, I feel like Foot Sites, no one has to worry on that. They really don't care. With going back to what you said about Ultra Boost, NMDs, and human races breaking, my best guess, like I said earlier, is just that they're being mass produced more and more. But at the same time, I feel like we've seen Air Jordan 1 drops with like, pretty big stock, but they still do well. Um, I just really think that it wasn't iconic enough, and it was just a wave that was creating false hype, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. You know what's really cool, actually, what I saw recently, and I might be a little late on this, but it's the Nike Go Flyees. Have you heard of those? They're essentially a sneaker. They have the purpose of them was sort of to have an updated design with a purpose. As innovators, Tinker Hatfield and his brother Toby, they sort of, whenever they design a shoe, and it's really interesting to sort of pick at their brains and how they go about sort of their creative process, right? And the first thing they said, which I heard from a couple of their interviews, which I saw, was that they assess functionality first, right?
Yeah.
And when they designed these Nike Go Flyees, the approach wasn't simply the idea of whether or not consumers can tie their shoes, but how you slip them on in the first place, which was really cool. And just to sort of, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, they're essentially these shoes. They are laceless, um, and the purpose was to sort of help, you know, some people who struggle to tie their shoes, or who aren't able to physically, who are physically incapable. And it was a really really interesting way to sort of help that target market and help these people out. What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
sort of this idea and this transition into shoes which have a little more purpose and functionality?
Okay. Yeah. So I've seen the Nike Go Flies, the one where it's like, is that the multicolored one? I feel like I've seen
Yeah,
that
yeah,
before.
yeah,
Yeah. So I think it's really cool that they're making shoes, for people that are like physically incapable of tying their laces or whatever it may be, or for people that are also just trying to wear them for casual wear. That's there's people like that just want to wear them on the go, or just maybe if they're a lot of people prefer shoes that they can just slip on instead of tying laces. So I think it has so many functions and so many purposes for people, no matter like what your no matter if you have a disability or if you don't have one. I think it's a shoe for everyone that looks good, and it's super easy to just put on. The functionality is great. I think that this is a shoe we won't be seeing mass produced anytime soon. And the resale on it, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's actually pretty high now.
yeah, yeah. And what's different about these is it's not like these shoes that self tie. It's more so shoes that they sort of,
Yeah,
by the
they're not like
heel they
adapts.
break open and they snap closed, right? So
Yeah.
every time you slip them on, they snap closed, and then all you have to do is, if you have a shoe on your right foot, you take your left foot and just simply put it over your heel and then pop it out.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Anything you want to add? Mine and Saucy Mango's social medias will be linked in the description below. Juiced social media will be linked in the description below. Make sure you check out any future Q&As. We'll make sure to keep you guys updated on that. That's really all. Saucy, anything you have to add?
the support that we've been getting has been phenomenal. We can't thank you enough, and we really appreciate you guys tuning in. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Until next time, peace.